If you are new here, this is the most beginner-friendly complete web development course, and these are some of the projects we will be covering in this course. I upload lots of lessons per week, so please subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss any of them. I respond promptly to comments, so if you want to ask or say something, feel free to drop it in the comments. If you missed any of the previous lessons, the link to the entire playlist is down in the description box. Let's get started. Before you get started, there's some settings we need to quickly change, all right? So go down to the settings, click this button, and then select settings. Now, when you come here, I want you to search for format on save, but you can just type format and then the option should come up. All right, so there will be a long list here. It will most likely be on the first page, but if you don't find it on the first page, you can go down and find it. Now, this is what you are looking for, format on save. I want you to make sure that this one is ticked like I have here, okay? So if it's not, please take it. Right. What this does is that when you are using Prettier, we already installed Prettier. So when you are using Prettier, it formats your code for you. Now this makes sure that as soon as you save the code, Prettier does its work. All right. Without this on, Prettier might not be able to do its work very well. So make sure you turn it on. Now your settings might look something different. It might look a little different from this. It might look something like this. Okay. So you may find something like this. When you do find something like this, instead of searching for format on save, you can search for toggle format on save as you see here, or just format on save. I'm sure you just it will be the same. Now this is what you are looking for, editor.format on save. Okay, I want you to make sure this is changed to true. Okay, change this to true. If you have any trouble in doing this, let me know in the comment box and I'll see how I can help you through it. In this lesson, we'll be looking at HTML. So go ahead and open your VS Code and let's write some code. Okay, actually, before we go ahead and write some code, there's one very important thing for programmers, that is to be organized. It is super important. I can't overemphasize that. You have to have your files organized. Your code itself has to be organized. So what you would normally do is that before you start any project at all, you should have a folder for every project. Okay, so what you are going to do for this course is that I'm going to quickly create a folder on the desktop right here, and then we are going to call the code folder busy code. You can name yours whatever you wish. So you go ahead and open the folder. So now every file that you are going to create is going to come into this folder. But even inside the folder, we must have a folder for each project. Okay, for now we are not doing projects, so we are just going to be looking at some random files. So we won't really need folders right here for now. Okay, so we can now go ahead and open our Visual Studio Code and then start writing some code. So once you've opened your Visual Studio Code like this, you want to go and find the folder where you want to store your files. So you go to File. Okay, so if you are using Mac, it's up here. You click on File and then you go to Open. And if you are using Windows 2, you see the File button up there, and then you click and then it opens your File Explorer for you, and then you go find your file wherever it is. Mine is on the desktop, so I'll go to desktop, and then there's the file. I'll open it. All right, so as you can see, we don't get anything here because there's actually nothing in our folder yet. So this is our busy code folder. So what we'll do is that you right click here and you go to new file. Okay, so you name your file whatever you wish, but for now I'm going to name it my first code.html. Alright, so as you can see, this .html over here is super important. Okay, it's called a file extension, just like all other files have extensions. So a PDF file will have .pdf. So this .html is the extension for HTML files. You can actually make it .htm too, so it's either .html or .htm, but then I usually prefer using .html. There's no big deal of a difference. Okay, so why I said it's very important, especially for the code editor, is that it helps the code editor to help you. right? So once the code editor knows you are writing your code in HTML, it gives you some suggestions. It helps you finish some lines as you write them. Okay, so as you can see, when I saved it as HTML, it gave me this file. Let me try saving it as something else. You see it will give me a different icon. Sorry. So if I say something.js, you see the icon it gives me, it means it recognizes that I'm working with a JavaScript file. So you won't actually create this file. So once you've created your file, you can hide this one by pressing the button like that. Okay, so for each HTML file, every file has a similar structure. Okay, so as we've already mentioned, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and it basically describes the content of the website. So everything in a website is produced by HTML, the content. So there isn't any website out there that exists without HTML. It's the basic building block of every website. So it consists of a series of elements, which we'll be talking about to explain later what elements actually mean. Okay, so these elements are what describe the content of the web page. All right, so let's look at the basic structure of an HTML file. So this is actually called the boilerplate code. Okay, you use it all the time, right? So pay attention. So the first line is what you call doc type. Okay, so as you can see, because I named it as HTML.html, the code editor actually recognizes that the first line I need is this doc type HTML. So I don't need to actually type it. I can just press enter and then it will provide it for me. So this doc type HTML is the first line for every HTML file at all. Okay, so it just tells the code editor that, oh, this is an HTML file, right? Okay, the next line is what you call an HTML element. So this is like the root element. Everything you are going to write, all the rest of all the HTML code is going to lie within this HTML element. The next one would be the head tag or the head elements. Okay, I mentioned tag. What tags are these? One is a tag, that one is a tag. All these are actually tags, right? So for every element, okay, we have three different parts, and I'll talk about that later. But for now, you should know that this opening head tag and this a closing head tag. So they wrap contents, they wrap whatever is within them. All right. The next tag or the next element would be the body. All right. So this looks like something you'd recognize, right? So you have a head and you have a body. All right. So inside the body, you have some special elements that actually do not display on the website, but they tell the browser how to process your website. The most common one is this title tag, which will always be there. Okay, actually, before we go ahead, let's launch our live server so that we see what we are doing. So you can right click and then choose open with live server. Okay, so this is our live server launching for us. So just to make it nicer so that we can see everything that's going on, I'll make this smaller and then put the live server on the side. Okay, so we currently don't have any content at all on our website. That's why this whole page is empty. Okay, so I was showing you what the title tag is. The title or the title element. The title element is what gives you the name that appears in the browser tab right over here. So when I change what is here and I save, you see this thing here change. Okay, so let me call it first HTML and then I save. Did you see that? All right, so to save you can just press Ctrl S, right? Now inside the body, that's where the content of the website itself is entered. So everything you want to put on the website itself comes inside the body element. Okay, so a very quick example would be a heading. So we'll talk about headings in details but for now you should know that there's a heading element. Okay, so let me just see. my 3. Right. So once I save, you see it appear here. Okay, so this a heading element. They each actually represent heading. So there's heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4. We'll talk about all that later. But I said I will explain I will explain the parts of an element. So you have, this is a complete element. It has the opening tag, and it has the content, and then it has finally the closing tag. So you can see the difference between the opening and closing tag is this forward slash. Okay, that's the difference between an opening and then a closing tag. So another quick example of an element would be a paragraph element, which is represented by the P. So you can just, let me just put in some gibberish here. All right, so you're probably wondering how I quickly got all this gibberish stuff to be pasted there. So you type this lorem, LOREM, and then you press enter, and then it will give you all that, right? But if you want to limit them, as you saw me do, let me quickly go back. You see I put some 20 here. That 20 tells the editor that I want 20 words. So if I make it 10, say 10, it would give me only 10 words. You see this one is much shorter. So you just type LOREM plus the number of words you want, and then you press enter, and then it does that for you. So if I save, so as you can see here, this is a paragraph element. Sorry. Okay, so this is the basic structure of an HTML file, and we'll be looking at other structures as we go along, other elements, other tags, and all sorts of concepts as we go along. This is a wonderful start. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. I am actually very excited about this journey, and then I hope you are ready to go on this journey with me. Thank you, and see you in the next lesson. Let me show you something real quick before we start. If for some reason your live server is not working, this is how you can open your file. You actually don't need the live server. It's just an addition to make you work faster. Okay, so if your live server is not working for some reason, which happens sometimes, you want to go to where you have your file, so the folder where your file is, and then you simply double click the file like this. All right, or you can right click on the file and then go to open with Chrome. Now the disadvantage with doing it this way is that whenever you make changes to your code, you first have to save the code, and then you open the browser, you refresh the browser, and then you see your changes. Okay, so you have to be saving and then refreshing the browser. But with the live server, you just save, and then it will reflect on the browser, which makes your work faster. The second thing is, it doesn't matter how much space you have between your elements, like this element and that element. Okay, so I have just one line of space in it. That doesn't mean there should be one line of space in the file itself. So when I open the file for you, you see that there's this space. It's not actually reflecting this space. You can leave as much space as you want. Okay, when you save, it will still be the same in the browser. This space doesn't matter. As long as the space is not within an element, it doesn't matter. And because of that, Prettier actually removes the excess space for you just to make your code look nicer. So you see that when I save, that space is gone. Okay, this is the work of Prettier, just to make your code look nicer. So if you don't have Prettier, you realize that when you save, that space won't be closed, but it will not reflect in the browser. So you leave spaces between your codes just to make your code look nicer, and it's a very good practice. All right, let's get started. So let's continue with our lesson. I mentioned that we have various types of headings. Okay, so the one we wrote is the heading 1, which is the biggest form of a heading. So you can have heading 2, heading all the way to heading 6. So I'll quickly copy and paste this 6 times, and then we'll check out how the other headings look like. So okay, so if you are wondering how I did this copy and paste quickly, you just click anywhere on the line that you want to copy and paste, and then you press Shift plus Alt, and then plus the down key to copy down, or the up key to copy up. So I'll quickly change this to, let's change this to, let's change the next one to heading 2, then change this one to heading 3, change this one to heading 4, change this one to heading 5, and then this one to heading 6. Let's save it, and then you see the various types of headings and their sizes. So this heading 1 all the way to heading 6. Depending, you don't just use these headings anyhow. You use them with a format. The main title should have the heading 1, and other subtitles will have, say, heading 2, and subtitles within those in the heading 2 level can have heading 3 in that order. Okay, it's very important. It helps the user to follow the content of the website very well. People usually skim through websites using the headings, so it's very useful to know how to properly use them. So we've already seen HTML paragraphs over here. So this is a paragraph. We'll quickly look at links, and I just want to say that if anything seems too much for you at this point, if you are not understanding something, or it seems like you are rushing through things, don't worry. Things will come into place as we go along. I actually believe in learning with projects. You learn better when you do projects. But of course, before we start any project, or even no matter how basic the project is, you need to have the basics. That's why we are going through this part of the course. So bear with me. Let's go through the basics, and then once we are done with the tiny basics, we can start putting things together and doing actual projects. So there's a paragraph. Let's maybe do a longer paragraph and then see how it looks like. So I'll do the lorem. I've already showed you how to do this. Then I'll go for maybe 80 characters, or sorry, 80 words. Then press enter. Right. Okay, let's save it and see. So this is what happened. It looked very long and weird like this. But then when I saved it, Control S, and then it was nicely organized for me. That is the work of Prettier. If you remember the extension I made as install. All right, so you can see what they look like. Let's look at what we call an anchor tag or an anchor element. So this anchor is used to link. It's used to create links. When you are browsing and then you press a button and takes you to another page. That is the function of this anchor element. So inside the anchor element, I can do something like click to go to Google. All right. And the anchor tag has something we call the href attributes. Okay, so it looks like this with an equal sign and then double quotes. This is what an attribute looks like, this very one. Elements can have attributes. We'll talk into more details about attributes, or we'll see more attributes as we go along, but this is a very typical example of an attribute. So this is the href attribute of the anchor tag. Okay, this href attribute indicates the actual link you want to go to. The text inside the content of the tag itself, or the element itself, is what will appear here. But the content of the href attributes inside here is the link you want to visit. Okay, this link would be a link within your own website or a link outside your website. Let's use a link outside. We can use Google. All right, so we can go like https www.google.com. Let's save it and see how it looks. Okay, so you can see click to go to Google. Now if I click, what will happen is that it will load on this same page, okay, on the page that I am on. But you don't want that to happen when someone is on your website. Let me click to show you. Do you see that? So it's loaded and then it's cleared our website. We don't want that to happen. When the person clicks, you want them to open another tab and look at it. That is done by another attribute called the target attribute. Every attribute has values. So for the href attribute, this is the value, and for the target attribute, it has a number of values, but the one we need in this case is the blank. Is blank. Okay, when you put this blank target, it means that when I click, it should open another tab and not my own website. So let's see it in action. So you see it opened another tab. That's what this blank target attribute does. All right, so that's it for an anchor element. Okay, so let's look at how you add a button to a website. So a button element. as the name suggests, it's going to be button, right? This is a button element, and then you can go like click me, right? So this is a button element. When you save, this is it, right? So this is our button right here. Okay, so you see that the button is in line with the anchor that we created, and that is because they are both inline elements. So let me back up and explain this very quickly. We have two main types of elements. We have an element that is a block level element, and then we have an inline element. So a block level element is an element that doesn't go on the same line with any other element. An example is this heading element. So if you have one heading, this heading, and you put another element under it, that element will not go on the same line with that heading. It will come below it. Okay, another one is the paragraph. So you see that they were all on separate lines, but this anchor and this button are inline elements. That means that they go on the same line with their with the next element to them. So because anchor was in line and button was in line, you can see that they are in line over here. Now to avoid that and make it look a bit neat, we can use what we call the break element. Okay, this break is what is one of the self-closing tags. A self-closing tag means that it doesn't have open and end tag. Instead of an open tag and a close tag, it's just one tag. So it self-closes, it opens and closes itself. So it's called the self-closing tag. Okay, so did you see what happened when I put the break tag? It's broke, so it's more like a line breaker. That's why it's called the break tag. So it breaks the line and then puts the element that followed it to then on the next line. You can add another one for more line. Did you see that? Right. So that's what this break element does. Finally, before we end this lesson, let's look at lists. So there are two types of lists. There's the ordered list and there's the unordered list. So you can have the ordered lists inside the unordered list. This ordered list, that's what the OL represents. OL, ordered list. Okay, so this is a list that has an order. Yes, you have 1, 2, they are giving numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And on ordered lists, we also will look at it shortly, doesn't have any numbering. Once you create the ordered list, inside the ordered list, you have list items. This can be item 1. Sorry, item 1. And then I'll copy and paste this a few times again, say 3 times, and this will be item 2. This will be item 3. All right. So I'll actually copy and paste this one. How I did that was I highlighted the whole thing and then I pressed, as I showed you earlier, Shift, Alt, and then down. Okay, so I'll make this an unordered list instead. All right. Now let's save them and see how each of them looks like. So did you see that? This is the ordered list. There's an order. It's 1, 2, and 3. And this is the unordered list without any order. It's just bullets, points. Okay. So I showed you the break element, which is used to break lines. There's one other element too that is quite interesting that I want to show you, which is the horizontal rule. So you have HR, just as the name suggests. It's also a self-closing tag. Okay, so you see how it does that. It creates a horizontal rule between two elements. It's quite interesting to use every now and then. All right, so this is it for this lesson, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Okay, so before we start this lesson, let me quickly show you a very cool trick. Have you ever wondered how a website was created? You go to a website and you wonder how did they do all that? I wonder how the code is like. You can actually look at the code behind the website. Let's say let's go to Facebook. Okay, let's go to Facebook. So once you go to any website at all, you can right click and then you go to view page source. Okay, so this will take you to the page where the HTML code is basically. So as you can see, I told you every HTML file starts with what? Doctype HTML, which is here, and then the next tag is what? The HTML tag over here, this DS. Okay, so the other one will be at the end, right? You see it there. So it's exactly what we've been doing. There's nothing new. You go back up, realize that there's the head tag, and then the other head tag will also be somewhere there, and then just like that. Also, actually this one looks to some way. If you want to see the structure very well, we use the Google developer tools, which we'll use more later, but for now let me just quickly show it to you. So to go to the Google developer tools, you just right click and then you go to inspect. Okay, so this will open the Google developer tools for you, and this is the developer tools. It shows you the structure of their websites. Okay, so this part is where you have all the HTML of the website, and this part you have the CSS. You haven't started CSS yet, so you won't understand much here. If you look at their HTML, it's just what you've been doing, .type HTML, then that's their HTML tag and their closing HTML tag, the head tag, and then the body tag. Okay, so you can actually mess around with the website. You select some parts and then you mess around with it. We will do more of that later. All right, so let's get back to our lesson. I showed you one of the elements in the head tag. The other very important one is what we call meta tags. There are a lot of meta tags, but the one I'm going to show you is what you use to do a character set. You want to, and let me show you something. See, when you are typing and then this thing appears here, they are trying to complete it for you. So you can just press enter and then it completes it for you. The common character sets that we use is UTF-8, like that. Okay, let's now look at some styling. Okay, so I told you before that CSS is responsible for the beauty, for the style. So that is why everything we've been doing here looks so raw, because there's no CSS yet. It's just HTML. There's no color. There's no live and all that. CSS is responsible for styling, but HTML also has a way of doing style. Okay, I actually don't recommend doing your styles right in the HTML, but just so you know it's possible, we'll add a bit of style here. Let me quickly show you something. You can have, okay, let's take this heading. Let's use the second heading. To add a style, just go like, so we use attributes. Okay, if you remember attributes, so we use the attribute style. Okay, then we go to, as you can see the suggestions here, you can change a number of things. So I just want to change the color, and as you can see, you can choose any of the colors. Okay, we'll talk about more colors and how to deal with them later. Let me just choose anyone here. Okay, and I press, you see the color changed. That's how you do styles. Okay, so just to do another one quickly, let's change the font size, or let's change the background color to some weird color. That's very weird. It's not beautiful at all. All right, so that's styling in HTML. That's, we will do more styling when we get to CSS. Now let us look at a few methods to format your HTML file or to format the content of your website. So when I talk about formatting, just indentations, making some bold, making some text more obvious, putting emphasis and all that. Okay, so there are quite a number of them. There are a lot of elements for formatting, but the most common ones you use are the ones we are going to talk about here. But I'll quickly mention the others so that you know they exist. So an example of this would be the most common one. The one I mostly use is the strong tag. Sorry. So if you want to make this, let's say this line, you want to make it bold. Okay, use the strong tag. Look, you can look here. Okay, it will turn bold on this side. I use the strong tag. Okay, I'll cut the closing tag and put it at the end like that. Okay, and I press save. You see, so this is now bold. Okay, another one is if you want to italicize it, use the emphasis. Okay, emphasis tag. It's represented by em, which means emphasis. Okay, so I'll cut, put it at the end of the line, save it. Did you see this one got italicized? Okay, so there are a number of them. You have the I tag. Okay, that's also another one for italicizing. and there's the B, which is also for bolding, and there are a number of them that you would usually not use, but just so that you know they exist. There's the mark, there's small, and a whole lot of them, but you do not use them very often, so we won't worry about them much. As you do the project, we will come across the ones that you would use the most. So let's talk about comments. Comments are very important in coding. Okay, so comments are lines of code that do not actually appear in the results. They are lines of code in the file, all right, but the browser does not display them. The browser doesn't even process them at all. The browser just ignores them. They are just there to help you, the developer, organize your code. I told you that organizing is very important to a programmer. For example, this very heading, okay, if I want to comment the heading 1, on top of the heading 1, I'll open a comment. This is how you write a comment. Every programming language actually has comments, but the syntax, when I talk about syntax, it's just how the thing appears. The syntax differs from one programming language to the other. This is how you do it in HTML. Okay, so you see that thing automatically completed it for me. Okay, so once, but let me do it on my own just to show you. So you open, and then you have this. Okay, so Visual Studio Code automatically completes it for you. So once you have that, everything you type within here is not rendered by the browser or the engine that runs your code. It's just there so that you know what the code is doing. Okay, so I'll put something like this is the main heading. All right, so that is just to tell me that this is the main heading. Okay, now if let's say I want to also comment this paragraph to tell me what this paragraph is actually doing in my code, I'll just go like, I'll go like, this paragraph shows the user how to register. Sorry, that is just comments. You use them as much as you can. Sometimes you are tempted not to use them at all in your code, but they are very important. They make your code very organized. Okay, so that will be it for this lesson, and I will see you in the next lesson. Hey, I know what you are thinking. So you are probably thinking, are we actually going to be able to create a website with these petty stuff that we are learning? And the answer is yes. We are going to be able to create a whole website with these things that you are learning. I promise you, if we follow patiently, by the end of this section, we will create a very simple project, and then you realize that these can actually be put together to form a website. Please be patient and follow along. So we are continuing with our lesson, and what you are going to learn next is how to link files in your project. When you are creating a website or a web application, it's definitely not going to be only one page that people visit. Okay, so there will be one page. So for example, an NGO's website, so there will be the home page, and there will be a page where they can click to read more about. So usually see about us, and there will be contact us and all those pages. So there will not be one file, there will be multiple files that are linked together. So we are going to look at how we link them. Also with your CSS, I told you CSS is responsible for the beauty, so we'll be using CSS to beautify our websites. CSS is also linked to the HTML files. Let's look at how we do all that. So before you can do all that, you need to have a proper file system, as I've always been saying. So far we've been writing in this file, writing our code in this file, but I want to quickly show you how you put together a file system for a project. So let's open our file explorer here. This busy code folder here is the folder where we decided to store to have all our projects. So we want to create a new folder for the project you are going to do. So you can press here to create a new folder, and then you can name it. Okay, I don't like creating or naming folders with empty spaces. As for files, never do it. Don't name your files with empty spaces. It is not a good thing to do. Okay, so okay, I think I already created one to show you, but let me delete it. All right, so you go here, then you create the folder. So as I was saying, it's not a good idea to create folders with spaces, like to name folders with spaces, for example. So we can name this intro to HTML. These spaces that you have here, it's okay for folders, but for files, never do it. Even for folders, I still don't like doing it. What I do rather is that I use I use hyphen, okay, like this. Or more often, I use what you call camel casing. So let me show you how camel casing looks like. In camel casing, the first word starts with a lowercase, and then every other letter that follows starts with an uppercase. So you write intro to HTML. Do you see that? Okay. Then you press enter. It will create the folder for you, and then you can right click on the folder and you create a new file inside the folder. And the very first file you want to create is what you call your root file. This file is usually named index.html. For virtually every website that you go, this is how they name their root file or root document. And you can actually name it anything you want, but there's a very special reason. One of the reasons is that when you host your website or your web application on a server, the server recognizes the file named as index.html as your root page. When someone goes to your domain or your website, so they type, let's say, myngo.com. So when they go to myngo.com, the HTML document that is named index.html is the first thing that the server will give them. And of course, they can navigate to the other pages through that main page that the server loads for them. So they can click on pages, and that's what we are going to learn. So you name this file index.html. Okay. The next thing to do will be to create files or folders for your CSS and then your JavaScript. So you create a new folder inside the folder of the project. Okay, so you create a new folder, then you name it CSS, and that folder is going to hold all your CSS files. And then you create another folder still inside, and then you name it JavaScript, but usually shorten it, make it JS, okay, representing JavaScript. Okay, we are not going to do anything about JavaScript for now. JavaScript is very interesting, and then we'll see it later. Okay, but for now, I want us to create one HTML file because I want to show you how you link it in your main document. So you create a new file, and let's call it style.css. This is what you usually find programmers naming their first or their main CSS file. You press enter. So now we have our basic file system for this project, this intro to HTML project. So let's hide this. Actually, what I want us to do now is to copy everything we've been coding in the my first code.html and bring it into the file system that we just created, the project that we just created. So I want to copy everything here, and then I'll cut, or you can just copy and paste. Let me copy rather than cutting. So, and then I'll paste it in the index.html file. So now we can close my first code. Okay, and we can close this live service, live feed, and then we open a new one. If your server is still running, you can click here to stop it so that you open the new one for this one. So you can right click and then open with live server. You can just click here, go live, and it will open this one live for you. Okay, so let me show you how you link the CSS file we created here with the HTML document. Okay, so you do that in the head tag. Okay, but before that, I want to let you know that it's important to leave spaces in your document. Okay, so over here from the head to the body tag, you can leave one space just to have some nice organization. And then we are going to link our CSS documents in the head tag. Also, I want to leave some space just to make it a little clearer. So you do this link with what we call the link tag. Link and link tag, yeah. It's very simple. This is actually not an element because it doesn't have all the three parts of the element that I showed you earlier. You'll see. Okay, so you write link, and it has three main attributes that you need. The first one is relationship, and that actually tells the browser the relationship to the file you are linking to. So the relationship in this case will be style sheets. The CSS file, we call CSS files style sheets because they give styles. Makes sense, right? All right. So the next one will be the type attribute. So you have type, and then for CSS you have CSS stroke text. So this is the type. And then the last one will be href, which is very important. Without it, it will not link. Okay, this href, okay, is the reference, as you can see over there, the reference to the file that you are trying to link. So let me show you how this works. Okay, so you want to first know the location of the file you are trying to link. So this is our file system over here. This is the main folder, and these are the subfolders, and then this is our index.html file. So our root file is at the same level as you can see with these other folders. Okay, so if you want to contact or you want to link any of these folders, you just write their name over here. Sorry, over here, CSS. Now I've linked with the CSS folder, but you are not looking for the folder. You are looking for the style.css inside the folder. So you add a forward slash and then style.css. So as you can see, the visual editor actually tries to help you because it knows what kind of files are over there. So you press enter and then it completes it for you. That's how you navigate through files. Okay. Okay. So right. So when you are done, you close the tab. Right. So as you can see, this one doesn't have opening and closing tag or content. It's just one tag. So it's not actually an element. So you can save it. And then just to show you that this file and this file are now actually linked, I'll go over into the CSS, even though we haven't done any CSS, and then I will try to change this line to the color of this line to red. Okay, so that line, when you come here, is this H4. Okay, 1 2 3 4 H4. So I want to change the color of the H4 to red using CSS. In order to do that, once again, you have to navigate your way to this HTML. How you use CSS is that you select the element you want to change in the HTML document, and you do that very specifically. So here, what I'll do is that I'll first hold this body element. Okay, I'll go to this body element, and inside the body element, I'll find the H4 element. Okay, so I can actually start from HTML. Let me show you how it works. So I go to body, right? So now I'm at this level. Okay, now I want to go inside. So what am I looking for? I'm looking for the H4 inside. Then I add H4. We'll learn more about how to manipulate this later. Once you've selected the elements you want to change, you want to add your style. So I just want to change the color to say red and show you how it looks like. Okay, it's not changing, which means something went wrong. The file is not well linked to our HTML document. Okay, so let's quickly find out what went wrong, why our document is not linking to the CSS. Let's go back to our HTML file. Okay, so we have link, relationship, style sheet, type, CSS. Okay, sorry. So this should be text stroke CSS, not CSS stroke text stroke CSS, like this. Okay, now let's save. Wow, there you go. So you see it's changed to red. That means our CSS file is properly linked to our HTML file now. Okay, so that is how you link HTML file to a CSS, your CSS to an HTML file. Okay, how about when you want to link to another HTML file? Okay, let's say this is the index, so this is the home page. Let's say we want to create another page, which we will call contact us. I'll use camel casing.html. Okay, so now this page will also have some content. Let me just copy and paste everything we have here. Control C, Control V. I'll just change this title to contact us and then save. Okay, now I want to link our home page to this page. How we do that is through an anchor tag. I hope you remember an anchor tag. So We can put it maybe at the top. You see that use an anchor tag. You remember the href attributes. The href attributes gives the reference to the file that you want to link to. So in this situation, the index file and the contact us file are on the same level, okay, just like this css and then the js file. So what I do is in the, contact us.html, sorry. Oh, let me close the tag. All right, and inside the content I want to write click here to contact us. Okay, so when you click there, watch, you do see it's now on the contact us page. Okay, so that's how you link your main document with other HTML files. Thank you for coming along with me. See you in the next. Let us now look at how we create tables in HTML. But before we do that, let me quickly show you something. Okay, so you realize that from one lesson to the other, my environment hasn't been changing. These two softwares are always there. You probably might not have it that way, so you probably closed the windows, these two windows when you finished coding the last time, and when you are going to start the next lesson, you probably having trouble starting again. Okay, let me close them and show you how you quickly do that. Right, so I'll close this one and then I'll close this one as well. Before you start, there are a number of ways of doing this. Actually, you can open the folder and then you can right click. Most of you will have open with VS Code here. So if you right click and then you see open with VS Code, then you can open it that way. Otherwise, you can close this one. You can first open VS Code, which is what I normally do. Once you open VS Code, it will usually bring you what you were doing from the last time. Okay, but if it doesn't, because maybe you switched off the machine or you closed it, and if it doesn't, just go to file, go to open. Okay, then you navigate through your file system and find your folder. I was also on the desktop, so desktop, busy code, intro to HTML. Okay, then you go to open. So we open just that folder. All right, now our folder is open. So there's our intro to HTML folder. There's our content in the folder. Now you want to click on the index.html file. Now we can hide this again. Okay, and once you have it this way, you want to open the live server, you click go live and your live server is open and you are ready to start coding once again. All right, so let's look at tables. So I'll go down here, create some space, and then we create table. The whole table will be wrapped by this table tag, table opening and closing tag. And as you know, tables have rows and columns. Okay, when you create tables in HTML, you create them row by row. You create the first row, and when I talk about row, the row is the horizontal arrangement of content. So you create it row by row. Row is not the vertical one, row is the horizontal one. Remember that. The first thing you do is you create a table row like this, tr, which represents table row. Inside the table row, you have data. For every table, you have the headings. Where you have the headings is one row, and usually the headings will be bold, right? So you create the headings with this table heading, and then we can see username, and then you create. So I'll copy and paste this 3 times. The second one can be, say, email, and the last one can be, say, full name. So this one row, this whole thing is one row. Let me save it and then you see how it looks. Control S. Can you see it down here? Okay, let me do something. I'm going to just quickly add some CSS property to this just to have enough space down there, then you don't have to be looking down. all the time. So I'll add style. You don't really have to do this. If you want, you can. So I'm going to add a margin button. Don't worry about this, you learn them later. So I'll say maybe 50 pixels. Actually, let me make it 200 pixels. Okay, so that gives us enough space here. All right, so this our table. So as you can see, there's the username, email, and then full name. It doesn't look too nice. It doesn't actually look like a table, but by the time we finish, you realize you see how it looks. So you can create the next row, table row again, and inside the table row, this time we've already made the heading. So this time we have table data instead of table heading. Okay, you can see username, you can see Dudu. Okay, then you can copy and paste this 3 times once again. Then email, I'll say maybe dudu at gmail.com, and then full name I can say like that. So if I save it, do you see how it looks now? So username, email, and then full name. Okay, just to give this a little bit of beauty, I'm going to add some CSS to separate them so that you see what's going on. So I'll open the CSS. This is just to make it look a little neat. Okay, so I'm going to select the table row as well as the table data, and then I'm going to give them some border. We'll learn how we do this later. So a border of 2 pixels. I want the border to be solid. I want it to be, say, blue. Actually, let me add this. Let me add it to the table itself as well. Make it table head. Okay, so it looks a bit more like a table now, and I can also give it a padding. Okay, I'll give the table head and then the table data a padding. Padding of say 15 pixels. Okay, so it looks a bit neater now. All right, so let's add some more columns, some more rows, sorry. So you can copy and paste this down. I've already showed you how to do this copy and paste, right? So this one can be say yao, right? And this will be maybe yao at gmail.com. This will be say yao, maybe sim team. If you save it, so there you have your table. So this is how you create a table in HTML. You can make it more complex and you can style it to make it look more beautiful and all that, but we are not going to do that for now. We'll do that as we create our projects. We've reached my favorite part, projects. This is going to be our very first project. In this lesson, we are going to build this sweet, simple website over here. I know it's not much, but for 1 week of lessons, I think we've done very well. We've come very far. All right. So this simple website here actually implements most of the concepts we've studied already. Let's get into it. As you can see here on the desktop, I've already downloaded the images we'll be needing for this project, just to save time, of course. But let me quickly show you where you find these amazing images. Okay, so as a developer, you need to have platforms where you find every resource that you need. So for images, you need to have a special platform. For videos, for color combinations, sometimes for references and all that. And I'll be showing these as we go along. So for images, there's only one place to go, pexels.com. Before you use any resource from online at all, there's one question you should ask yourself: is it free? Because there are some images that are not royalty free, and if you use them in a project, you could get into trouble. Once you land on the platform, you have this search bar here where you can search for whatever you need. You can go like mountains, and then they will bring you all sorts of pictures, very beautiful pictures of mountains. And the nice thing about this platform is that the images here are free to use. All right, so you can also find videos on this platform as well by clicking the menu icon here and then going to free videos. Okay, so that's how I found the pictures that we are going to be using, and you can also go there if you want, or I will provide you with the videos with the images I've downloaded already if you want to use them, or you can find your own. All right, so remember what I told you, that the first thing to do is to set up your file system. Okay, you call it setting up the environment. Okay, so let's open our project folder. Let's create a new folder for this project and call it tourism. Okay, and then we can now go back to our VS Code and then create all the files and folders we need inside this folder. So let's open the folder from here. Let's go to the desktop. That's our folder. You can close the welcome message, and then let's go into our file system. This is our folder. There's nothing in it for now. We are going to fill it. So we need our index.html file, and we also need a folder for CSS files. We won't be doing any CSS in this video, but I want you to get used to how we do things. All right, next one we need is the JavaScript folder. And then finally, we need a folder to keep all the resources, the videos, the images, and all that. So let's name this folder resources. We named it files in the other lesson, but then I actually prefer naming it resources. Okay, let's go back into our busy code folder, open our tourism folder, open the resources, and then copy our pictures into it. So if you are download, you can download them straight into the folder resources. All right, now let's start coding. Remember, the first line is doctype HTML, and then you want to give your HTML tag, and then the next thing would be the head tag. I hope you remember all these. And then the next thing would be the body tag. Let's launch our live server so that we see what you are doing as we code. Okay, so we have our live serve here and we have our target here. This is what we are trying to create. We will be comparing as we go along. The first thing to do, let's go into the head. Okay, you remember the tags that we learned about in the head. Remember the meta tag? I said the common one, we use it character sets, and we set it to UTF-8. Don't forget this one. The next one would be the title tag. And let's title it Tourist Sites in the World. Alright, now let's go into the body tag. Inside the body, of course, when you look here, the first thing we have is a heading. This is actually a heading 1 because it's quite big. It's the biggest heading you can have. So we can have let's put a heading 1 here. Alright, so what's in heading 1 over here? Just for the sake of time, I'll copy and paste so that we don't waste time. Alright, and below here you can see we have a heading 3. This is a heading 3, a smaller form of the heading. So let's add heading 3 below it. And let me copy and paste so that we don't waste time. So as you code, you save and then you look at your live serve. You want to be looking at what you are doing. If what you expect is what you are getting, if it's not what you are getting, then means something is going wrong. You come back to your code and then you correct it. All right. So as you can see from here, the next thing is this section where you have the title of the image, the title of the tourist site, the image of the tourist site, and these ones. It's actually repeating, it's the same thing repeating. There's 1 and then 2 and then 3. Okay. What we are going to do is that to get this numbering, we are going to use the ordered list. I hope you remember ordered lists for the numbering. Let's see ordered lists. And this will give us the numbering that we need. Now in each we have a list. Okay, so let me show you what we are doing here. This whole thing from here all the way down is the ordered list. So this one all the way here is one item in the list, and from here all the way here is the second item in the list, and then the third one is this one. Okay, so you have an ordered list, and inside the ordered list you have list items. Okay, so this is going to be our first list item. And then remember what I told you about using comments to help you understand or follow what you are doing. So comments are such that the next time you come back to your code, it will be easy to read. So let's add a quick comment here that says the title of the location, and then we want to add a paragraph here that gives us the title, the location. So you see the Great Wall of China. The next thing will be the image. So let's add another comment, image of the tourist site. So then you add an image tag. I hope you remember the attributes of the image tag. The first one will be the source attribute, okay, which gives a location or a direction or an address to where we have our image. Our image is in the resources. It's in the resources folder, and this image is the Great Wall image. All right. The next attribute will be the height. Okay, let's set the height to about 450 pixels, and then the width to 400 pixels too, so that we have it looking like a square. Let's save it. Okay. Let's also give it an alt. I told you always need the alt. Okay, so the alt will say the Great, and then we can end it now. Oh, sorry, we should be looking at our live server, not here. Okay, so this is what we have in our live server. This is where we've gotten to so far. All right, so we have the first list item. If you look here, the next thing we have is this location and number of visits. And as you can see, this is also a list, but in this case, it's unordered. So that's why you have this bullet point. So location and number of visits is actually also a list. In order to get the list like this, we can use the unordered lists. And inside the unordered list, we have list items. This list item will say location. Sorry. Then we have a colon, we have China. All right. Then there's another list item that says number of visits. Then you have 5 million per year. Let's go back to our live feed and see what's happening. All right, so there you go. The last thing we need for this list item is, as you can see here, this paragraph over here. Let's add a paragraph below it. That's not the last thing. The last thing is over here, but we need this paragraph. So let's add a paragraph below this unordered list. And then let me just copy and paste the content there. All right, let's look at what our project is looking like now. This is what we have. Let's add the last thing, which is this link. Okay, so I added this link so that you can click to read more about the tourist site we are working on right now. So it is linked to an external platform, which is Wikipedia. How you do that is that you go to wherever the thing is and then you click here, then you copy. So this link here will be your href attributes for the anchor tag. Let's add our anchor tag. Let's give it an href. The href will be, as I mentioned, where you have the content that you want to link to. You copy the address. So I'll copy it and then I'll paste it here, and that is our href. Okay, and since we don't want it to replace our website, we want to give it a target of a blank target, right? So this will be blank, and inside it want it to say click here to read more. Okay, and then there's this horizontal rule under, so let's add the horizontal rule, and the horizontal rule is under the whole list item here. Okay, this number one list item, so we want to add it below the list item. Let's look at how. Wow. So I think it's looking neat now. We have something similar to this, but as you can see, there are a few differences. Over here the title is red, but here we have it as black, so we need to add all those edits. And then the image has this nice rounded borders, and the text here a little bigger. So let's do that. First, the image, sorry, the title. Where is it? Okay, it's over here. We want to add a style, and we want to change the color. You can say red. We will talk more about colors when we start CSS. And the next thing will be the image. The image has some nice rounded borders, so let's add that one too. You say border, and you want the border to be 1 pixels solid. I want it to be black. Also, you want the border radius to be, say, 5 pixels or 20 pixels. Did you see that? So we have our nice rounded borders now, and you have the title being red. Right, so let's increase the size of these fonts, of these texts here. All right, so you can add a style here as well as here. Let me show you one cool trick. If you want to select multiple locations, so we want to select here and then here. How you do that is you select here, you hold down the Alt key, then you press here too. So they are both selected now. So whatever changes you make affects both locations. Okay, so let's add style, and let's see font size, and then let's make it 20 pixels. Let's save it. There you go. So we have it being a bit bigger. And then as you can see, the location and the number of visits are bolded. Let's do that. You remember we talked about formatting. You add a strong tag here to the location. Let me cut this. Okay, and we do the same thing for the number of visits. Oh, there you go. So there's one last thing that we have to do for this list item. Is, as you can see, the color of the Great Wall of China over here is blue, and over here to the Eiffel Tower is blue. So we have to change this color to blue. And I just did that to show you something. There's a tag called the span. Okay, the span tag. Now this tag doesn't really, we use it with text. Okay, so text that you want to, if you want to format a text, you want to give a text a special format, you wrap that text in the span element. Sorry. So I'll wrap the Great Wall of China over here in the span tags. As you can see, the span tags don't make any changes. I saved, but no changes. They don't make any changes, but you just wrap a particular text just to give that text a special styling or something. Let's give this one a style. Let's give it color of blue. Let's look at our live save. There you go. All right. So this is basically the primary structure of our website. The rest is just repetition of what we just did. So we just quickly copy and paste this code. So we copy and paste everything from this end. Okay, so the list item, okay, copy all the way from here, and with the horizontal rule as well. Copy, want to give some space, you paste, more space, then you paste. All right. As you can see, it's the same thing repeating 3 times. Copying and pasting is one thing you'll be doing a lot as a developer. You can't you can't code everything all over all the time. Since they are going to be similar, you just copy and paste and then you replace what you have to replace. So over here, the first thing you have to replace, of course, will be the title of the location. You change the Great Wall of China to the Eiffel Tower, and then you make all those changes. Let me do that. All right, as you can see now, our projects, the project we just went through in this lesson is looking identical to the one I showed you before we started the lesson. I know this one isn't much, but as we go along, we'll do more projects and we'll get to do bigger, create bigger websites. If you don't understand anything at this point, I want to reassure you that it will get better as we go along. So just stay with me and I will see you in the next lesson.